The European car market just hit a point of no return. Volkswagen is shutting German plants for the first time in 87 years. Stellantis just flagged 15 factories for closure, and Nissan sales have entered a 50% freefall. So this isn't just a recession, it's an automotive extinction event. 9 legendary car brands that you thought were untouchable are now on life support, and internal leaked documents suggest that they won't survive past 2026. Now, while you were sleeping, Chinese EV brands like BYD seized 11% of the market, fueled by manufacturing costs that are 40% lower than Ford or Renault. And between skyrocketing energy prices and the EU's brutal 2025 emission regulations, well, the big three are quietly dumping stock. Dealerships are vanishing, and the average driver is now trapped in a 12-year-old vehicle, well, because new cars have become a luxury that no one can afford. So today, I'm exposing the 9 car brands going bankrupt or being swallowed by Chinese giants before the year 2027. So if you own one of these, your resale value is about to crater. So before we count down the list, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this shift in the auto industry will dictate exactly what you should and what you shouldn't buy this year. So let's plunge deeper into the carnage. So let's count down the 9 brands that are running out of time. Starting off with number 9, DS Automobiles. Now, that's the French brand that nobody asked for in the first place. So Stellantis launched DS to rival BMW and Mercedes, but the reality, well, it's a financial black hole. See, in 2024, DS sold just 41,000 cars across entire Europe. Now, to put that into perspective, BMW sells that many 3 Series units every 60 days. Now, each DS dealer sells an average of just 18 cars a month. Ouch. And by the way, they need to sell 50 just to break even. Internal documents that were leaked from Stellantis show that DS actually loses €4,200 on every single car sold after they deduct the marketing and R&D costs. Now, yes, dealers admit the brand is dead, but it's still unburied. And in fact, Stellantis executives have already hinted that DS will be folded into Citroën by mid-2026. The translation, well, DS becomes a trim level, not a brand. So now down to number 8, and here we've got the Lancia. Now, the Lancia is classed as the Italian ghost. See, Lancia hasn't built a hit since the 1990s. And in 2024, they sold 38,000, all of one model. And that's the aging Ypsilon, which is basically a Fiat in disguise. Now, outside of Italy, that brand doesn't even exist. Inside Italy, it barely does too. Now, their latest, the Renaissance EV, the new Epsilon Electric, sells just 200 units a month. Mercedes sells that many A-classes every single day. Now, with 160 dealers left and all of them piggybacking off Stellantis, juggling 14 brands, well, hey, the math is simple. Lancia will be gone by 2026. No market position, no customers, and no future. Down to number 7, and this one, well, it's a bit of a surprise. We're talking Infiniti, the brand that never belonged. Now, Infiniti already pulled out of Europe once in 2019, but now Nissan wants to revive it with EVs. The problem is the brand is very toxic here. They sold fewer than 400 cars in Europe in 2024, while burning through €50 million annually, and that was just to keep the lights on. So now Nissan plans to relaunch Infiniti as an electrical premium brand in 2026, but frankly, it's sheer delusion. They've got no dealer network, they've got no brand loyalty, and they've got, well, no chance. Infiniti has already collapsed in China, and it's lost 35% of its US market. So by 2026, Infiniti will exist only in the Middle East and maybe, just maybe, as a nameplate for badge engineered EVs that no one actually wants. Down to number 6, and it's a maker of pretty nice looking cars, if I say so myself. We're talking Alfa Romeo. Now, here's where passion meets financial reality. So, as you know, Alfa Romeo is every car enthusiast's heartbreak. Gorgeous cars, brilliant handling, and absolutely horrible sales. In 2024, Alfa Romeo sold just 48,000 vehicles in the whole of Europe. Now, with the Giulia and the Stelvio combined, they sold fewer cars in a year than BMW moves in 3 weeks. Now, the new Tonale crossover was supposed to be the brand's savior, but that too is selling 1,100 units a month, and that's less than 1/10 of the Mazda CX-5. Now, Stellantis promised 30 billion in electrification investment, but in fact, less than 2 billion has actually been spent. Every new project is either delayed or it's cancelled. The dealer network is collapsing, and most experts believe that Alfa will be folded into Maserati or to Jeep by 2026. Now, the brand may survive in name only, but Alfa as an independent brand, sorry, but sadly, it's finished. Down to number 5, and at number 5, again, everybody's favorite car manufacturer, Jaguar. And that's the brand that committed corporate suicide. Now, Jaguar has decided to kill every single current model and go fully electric by 2026, starting at €100,000 and up. Now, it's a move that alienates 95% of their existing customers. 2024 European sales was just 31,000 units. Now, if you look at the fact they sold 78,000 just a few years ago, dealers are furious because Jaguar plans to go online only with just 50 experience centers across the whole of Europe. And that leaves hundreds of dealers bankrupt. Now, when your sister brand, Land Rover, is actively distancing itself from you, well, sorry to say, that's the writing on the wall. So by 2026, Jaguar will either be a boutique brand selling 5,000 units a year, or maybe it'll be dead entirely. And my guess, I think it will be dead entirely. Next, down to number 4, struggling in Europe and struggling in the US, and we're talking Maserati. The internal patient finally flatlines. So Maserati has been relaunching for 20 years, but this time, sadly, it's all over. 2024 sales were just 8,200 units across the whole of Europe. Bentley, which charges double, sold more than that. The new Greek Kale SUV, built on the same platform as the Tonale, costs 75,000 euros, but it sells a tenth as well as the Porsche Macan. Depreciation is brutal. A 3-year Ghibli loses 70% of its value. And even the MC20 supercar has dropped 30% in 1 year. Now, Stellantis has already cut €1.5 billion in Maserati investment. And by 2026, well, Maserati will become a design badge for special edition Jeeps or Alfas, not a true car maker. So now we're down to number 3. And at number 3 is Nissan. Now, the fall of Nissan in Europe is absolutely breathtaking. Sales plunged from 543,000 in 2006 to 247,000 in 2024. Factories are closing, R&D centers have been shuttered, and the company has cut European operations by as much as 75%. Now, executives quietly admit they're pulling out of Europe to focus on exports and China. Dealerships have dropped from 2,800 to just over 1,000. And by 2026, there'll be 400 Nissan dealers left, mostly selling rebadged Chinese EVs. So sadly, it's the end of the Japanese century in Europe. Honda's gone, Mitsubishi's gone, and now Nissan's following them straight out of the door. So now we're down to the last 2, and at number 2, we've got Chrysler. And that's what we class as the Weekend at Bernie's brand. Now, technically, yes, Chrysler still exists in Europe, but only on paper. They sold just 187 cars in 2024. That's not 187,000, that's 187 cars in total. The Pacifica minivan and the dead 300 sedan are all that's left. Now, Stellantis plans to rebadge a Peugeot 508 as a Chrysler in Europe, and to be frank, it's absolutely laughable. See, by 2026, Chrysler won't even have a website. Now, this is a brand being kept alive purely for accounting and emission credits. So now, finally, we're down to number one. And at number one, we're talking Stellantis itself, the giant that's way too big to survive. Now, this might shock you, but Stellantis, the company that owns half the cars or vehicles on this list, is on the verge of imploding. With 14 brands, 260,000 employees, and wait for this, 39 billion euros in debt, while the empire is collapsing under its own weight. Sales dropped 27% in 2024, and the stock is down nearly 50%. Now, sources inside the European Commission admit they're preparing for a controlled disassembly of this company by 2026. So you can expect Peugeot, Citroën, and Opel to survive, possibly under Chinese ownership. Fiat will be absorbed, Jeep and Ram will return to US control, and everything else, sorry, absolutely gone. It's the end of an era and the death of the European car manufacturing as we know it. So, just to conclude, this isn't a minor correction, this is a full-blown collapse. By 2026, the European automotive landscape will be entirely unrecognizable. Chinese brands will own a quarter of the market, millions of jobs will vanish, and the continent that invented the automobile, well, it's just watching its car industry die, and that's very sad. So if you currently own a car from any of these brands, my advice to you is sell it right now while it still has value. And if you work for one, it's time to update your resume. The collapse isn't coming, it's already here. So which of these brands do you think deserves to survive? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, because the next automotive domino could fall a lot sooner than anyone expects. So take care, my fellow drivers, as always, and I'll see you guys on the next one.